All right, Reddit, using a throwaway for this one, for reasons that will become painfully obvious. Need to get this off my chest, and maybe, just maybe, hearing that I wasn't the asshole here will help quiet the echoes. I'm M38 now, but this all went down a few years ago, during what was unequivocally the worst week of my life. You always think you know someone, right? Especially after 5 years. Chloe, F35 at the time, and I, well, everyone thought we were golden, the power couple. We met through work functions, different companies, same industry, and honestly, she pursued me pretty hard at first. I was flattered. She was smart, beautiful, driven. We clicked over shared goals, long hours, plans for the future. We were ambitious together, or so I thought. We talked about building an empire, side by side. Looking back, maybe I should have seen that her ambition had a sharper edge than mine, more focused on the trappings of success than the work itself. But I was in love, head over heels, planning the wedding kind of love. We had the venue booked, deposits paid, the whole 9 yards. Friends envied us, family adored her. We were, from the outside, the perfect picture. That picture shattered the same week my world fell apart for a completely different reason. My dad, M72. He'd been sick for a while, a slow decline that rips you apart piece by piece. We hadn't always been close. Stubborn father, equally stubborn son. But over the last couple of years, we'd found our way back. We'd reconciled, finally talking honestly, forgiving old hurts. It was precious, that time. Fragile. We'd sit, sometimes just watching old movies. Sometimes him giving me advice I finally had the sense to listen to. His last real conversation with me. It's burned into my memory. He was weak, lying in the hospice bed, but his eyes were clear. He gripped my hand, his knuckles bony but surprisingly strong. "Son," he rasped, "don't chase shiny things. Build something real, something solid. Find someone who sees the gold in you, not just on you. Promise me." I promised, tears streaming down my face, my voice thick. He squeezed my hand again, a faint smile. "Good lad. And tell Chloe, tell her to take care of my boy." He passed away 2 days later. The funeral was a blur. Gray skies, black suits, the smell of lilies and damp earth. I stood there, feeling hollowed out, numb. People murmured condolences, hugged me, shared memories of Dad. I nodded, mumbled thanks, tried to keep it together. My phone was on silent, buried in my pocket. I wasn't expecting anything important. Chloe was supposedly on a spa weekend girls' trip, something planned months ago that she insisted she couldn't cancel, even with Dad fading. She'd said she needed the de-stress time, before the final wedding push. Said she'd be back the day after the funeral, full of support. I'd felt a pang of disappointment. She wouldn't be there, but convinced myself she was right. The timing was just awful luck. It was during the reception, a somber gathering at my parents' house, that I felt the vibration. Pulled out my phone automatically, maybe hoping for a comforting word despite everything. Saw her name, Chloe. Relief flickered for a microsecond before I read the message preview. The text. It wasn't long. Brutally efficient, really. "Hey, can't do this anymore. I'm not coming back from this girls' trip. Met someone with actual ambition, younger, better prospects. We're done. Mail me the ring back ASAP. I need it." I read it once, twice. The word swam. Actual ambition. The phrase hit like a physical blow, echoing my dad's last words. Younger, better prospects. I need it. Not I'd like it back, but I need it. Like it was hers by divine right, like I was merely its temporary custodian. The room tilted. The low murmur of grieving relatives faded into a roaring in my ears. I felt cold, suddenly, colder than the gray day outside. Nausea churned in my stomach, already empty from grief. My cousin touched my arm. "You all right, man? You look like you've seen a ghost." I probably did. The ghost of the future I thought I had. The ghost of the woman I thought I loved. The ghost of my own stupidity. The wave of pain was overwhelming. The raw agony of losing my dad crashed into the sharp, jagged betrayal from Chloe. Humiliation burned my cheeks. She hadn't just left me. She'd left me now, at the lowest point of my life. And the calculated cruelty of demanding the ring immediately. It was breathtaking. Then something shifted. It was like my brain, overloaded with grief and shock, just short-circuited. The churning stopped. The roaring faded. A strange, icy calm settled over me. It wasn't peace. It was something much harder, much colder. It was the calm of absolute certainty. Certainty that the woman I planned to marry was a parasite. Certainty that she saw the ring not as a symbol of love, but as a cashable asset. Certainty that she needed to be taught a lesson about actual value. My thumbs moved over the screen, typing with a steadiness that surprised me. No rage, no pleading, no questions. Just 5 words. Keep it. Consider it severance. Severance. Like firing an employee who'd fundamentally breached their contract. It felt right. It put the power back subtly. It wasn't me complying with her demand. It was me dismissing her and letting her keep a token payout. A payout she vastly overestimated. I hit send. Then I turned off my phone, tucked it deep into my pocket, and walked back into the room full of mourners, pasting a numb mask onto my face. I had a father to bury properly. Revenge could wait. But the seed was planted. The next few days were a fog of arrangements, family obligations, lawyers, and overwhelming sadness. Dealing with Dad's estate, supporting my mom, sorting through decades of memories packed into boxes. Chloe didn't exist in that bubble. I didn't check my phone for messages from her. I didn't care what she was doing or who this Liam was. My focus was singular, honoring my father and surviving the grief. But in the quiet moments, late at night when exhaustion warred with sorrow, the plan began to bloom in that cold, clear space in my mind. It centered, of course, on the ring. Let me tell you about the ring. It looked impressive. Classic solitaire setting, platinum band, stone probably looked like a good 2, maybe 2.5 carats. Sparkled like crazy under the lights. Chloe had gasped when I proposed, tears in her eyes. She'd flashed it everywhere, constantly angling her hand so people would notice. She'd even casually shown me an appraisal document, one I'd accidentally left on my desk, for a natural, high-quality diamond of that size, worth easily $20,000, maybe more depending on the 4 Cs. She'd hugged me tight, whispering about how much it meant that I'd invested so much in us. Here's the thing. The ring she wore wasn't that $20,000 diamond. The stone sparkling on her finger was a top-of-the-line moissanite, lab-created, virtually indistinguishable from a diamond to the naked eye, even to most jewelers without specific testing equipment. It cost me around $800. Why did I do it? Honestly, a few reasons. Part of it was ethical. The diamond industry has its issues. Part of it was practical. Sinking that much cash into a single item felt excessive, especially with a wedding and house deposit looming. But maybe subconsciously it was a test. A test prompted by my dad's quiet warnings about chasing shiny things, and by a nagging, barely acknowledged feeling that Chloe was a little too impressed by wealth, a little too focused on labels and price tags. I wanted her to love me, the life we were building, not the carat weight on her finger. The appraisal for the real diamond? I'd acquired that separately, a hypothetical quote for what a natural stone like the moissanite would cost. Leaving it where she could see it was insurance? A contingency? A way to gauge her reaction? I don't know. But I kept the original receipt and certificate for the moissanite locked away securely. Now that decision felt like fate. Or maybe just prudent planning paying off in the ugliest way possible. I knew Chloe. I knew her desperate need for validation through status. I knew that behind the ambitious professional facade, her finances were probably shakier than she let on. She liked expensive things, and I'd footed the bill for a lot of our lifestyle. This younger, better prospect, Liam, likely expected her to arrive with assets, not just baggage, and that ring, in her mind, was her primary asset, her golden ticket, her immediate cash infusion. She wouldn't just mail it back. She wouldn't keep it for sentimental reasons, clearly. She'd pawn it, fast, likely aiming for a high-end place to maximize the return, thinking she was getting a significant chunk of that $20,000+ value. The cold, clear part of my brain went into overdrive. While my heart felt like a lead weight, my fingers flew across the keyboard late one night. I identified the 3 most likely high-end jewelers, charm pawnbrokers in the city known for buying estate pieces, the kind of places a woman trying to project wealth would go. To each of them, I sent a discreet anonymous email from a burner account. Subject: Potential Sale Inquiry Advisory. Ring description. The email text was simple. To whom it may concern, please be advised that a woman matching the description, brief, non-insulting description of Chloe, hair color, build, approximate age, may attempt to sell an engagement ring matching the attached specifications. Detailed description of the ring's appearance, setting type, apparent size, in the near future. While this ring visually resembles a high-value natural diamond, please be aware that the center stone is, in fact, a laboratory-created moissanite, purchased on date for actual low price. Documentation verifying this is attached scanned copies of the moissanite certificate and original purchase receipt. The individual attempting the sale may be under the impression, potentially supported by a third-party appraisal of a different natural stone, attached copy of the $20,000 appraisal I'd let her see, that the ring holds significant value. This information is provided purely for your due diligence in assessing resale value. Thank you for your time. Click Send to all 3. It felt clinical, detached, like planning a strategic move in a game. A game I never wanted to play, but one where she'd already cheated, flipped the board, and spat on the pieces. There was a grim satisfaction in hitting send. It was done. The trap was set. All I had to do now was wait. Wait for the greedy little piranha to swim right into the net. I closed the laptop. The silence of the house pressed in. The grief for my dad surged back, immense and suffocating. I let myself cry then, not just for him, but for the naive fool I'd been, for the love I thought was real, for the sheer, calculated cruelty someone could inflict when you're already on your knees. But beneath the tears, that icy resolve remained. She wanted severance. She'd get it, just not the kind she was expecting, not even close. The days following the funeral and the sending of those emails were heavy. Grief is a strange beast. It clings like wet cement, making every movement, every thought feel sluggish. I threw myself into practicalities, clearing Dad's apartment, dealing with probate paperwork, making sure Mom wasn't alone too much. It was a necessary distraction, a shield against the full force of the sorrow and against the simmering, icy anger towards Chloe. I didn't need confirmation that she'd take the bait. I didn't need a friend to call or a GPS tracker, though the thought briefly amused me in a dark way. I just knew. I knew Chloe's vanity, her sense of entitlement, her desperate need for quick cash to maintain the illusion she was selling to Liam. The ring wasn't just jewelry to her, it was liquidity. It was proof she'd traded up. She wouldn't wait. She couldn't afford to. My certainty was absolute, built on 5 years of observing her, even if I hadn't fully understood what I was seeing until it was too late. Every expensive dinner she insisted on, every subtle comparison to wealthier acquaintances, every time her eyes lingered a little too long on a price tag. It all clicked into place now. She was a transaction disguised as a romance. So, I waited, not anxiously, but with a kind of grim patience. I pictured the scenario playing out, running it like a movie in my head during the long, quiet evenings after Mom had gone to bed. I pictured her walking into Prestige Pawnbrokers, the fanciest one downtown, the one most likely to give top dollar for genuine high-end pieces. She'd be dressed impeccably, maybe that cashmere coat I bought her last Christmas. Irony intended by the universe. She'd glide to the counter, radiating confidence, probably giving the staff a slightly condescending smile meant to signal she was doing them a favor by gracing their establishment. She'd remove the ring, my ring, the one I placed on her finger with hope and love, and slide it across the polished wood counter. "I'd like to sell this, please," she'd say, her voice smooth, maybe adding a little backstory about upgrading or moving on, something to imply value without sounding desperate. The jeweler, let's call him Mr. Goldstein, a man who's seen it all, would pick it up. He'd examine it under the loupe, nodding professionally. Chloe would lean forward slightly, anticipating the offer, perhaps already spending the money in her head. A down payment on a condo with Liam? A flashy new car? Designer bags to impress his friends? Mr. Goldstein, however, would pause. His eyes, sharp and practiced, would notice the infinitesimal differences, or perhaps simply recall the anonymous email with attached proof that landed in his inbox a couple of days ago. He'd discreetly pull up the file on his computer terminal behind the counter. His expression wouldn't change much. Professionalism is key, but perhaps a flicker of recognition, of confirmation, would cross his face. He'd clear his throat. "An interesting piece, madam." He might perform a quick thermal conductivity test, confirming his suspicion, or rather confirming the information provided. Then, the moment of truth. Using the evidence I'd sent, he'd deliver the verdict, calmly but unequivocally. "Ma'am," he'd begin, perhaps sliding a printed copy of my email's key points across the counter, along with the damning moissanite certificate. "Regarding this ring, we received information confirming the center stone is a high-quality moissanite, consistent with this purchase receipt." He'd point to the $800 figure. "It's not the natural diamond described in this other appraisal you might have seen." He'd gesture towards the $20,000 plus appraisal document I knew she carried like a shield. "Its current resale value, based on the setting and the synthetic stone, is approximately $150. I imagined the blood draining from her face, the confident smirk collapsing into slack-jawed disbelief. "What? No, that's impossible." Her voice would rise, sharp and shrill, losing its practiced smoothness. "This is a real diamond. It was appraised for over $20,000. You're trying to cheat me." Mr. Goldstein would remain calm, perhaps gesturing again to the documents. "The documentation indicates otherwise, madam. This receipt confirms the stone's origin and cost. The appraisal you're referring to appears to be for a different stone entirely." He might add, with a touch of finality, "We stand by our assessment. $150 is our offer, based on the materials." The scene would escalate quickly. "Chloe, trapped between her fabricated reality and the stark, documented truth. Accusations hurled at the jeweler, demands to see a manager, maybe stamping her foot like a child denied candy. Other customers in the shop would start staring, witnessing the meltdown of this supposedly sophisticated woman arguing over $100 for a ring she clearly thought was her lottery ticket. The humiliation would be volcanic. She'd snatch the ring back, her hand trembling with rage. "This is ridiculous. You're incompetent." She'd spit before storming out, cheeks burning, the weight of the worthless ring suddenly feeling like lead on her finger. The heavy glass door of prestige pawnbrokers would swing shut behind her, leaving her on the cold pavement with nothing but shattered expectations and the dawning horror of her situation. That mental movie played on repeat, offering a sliver of dark satisfaction amidst the grief. It wasn't about the money I'd saved on the ring, it was about the demolition of her entire premise. Her betrayal was predicated on securing financial gain and status. The worthless ring stripped that away, exposing her actions as not just cruel but also incredibly stupid. The confirmation, when it came, wasn't direct. It was the sudden cessation of any perceived activity. Any vague social media posts stopped. Mutual friends I hadn't blocked went quiet, suggesting maybe they'd heard something or been warned off. Then, about a week after the funeral, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short, frantic, bordering on hysterical. It was Chloe. "Pick up the phone, you bastard." "What did you do? They're saying it's fake. All of them. You set me up. You owe me. Liam's furious. Pick up." Click. A cold smile touched my lips for the first time in weeks. It wasn't happiness. It was the grim acknowledgement of a direct hit. Target neutralized. I deleted the voicemail. The fallout with Liam must have been spectacular. I didn't need details, but knowing Chloe, knowing the foundation of lies their whirlwind romance was likely built on, it was easy to extrapolate. She returns, not with thousands in cash, but with a story of being duped by her pathetic ex and a ring worth less than a dinner date. Liam's reaction, as I pieced it together later from fragments heard through the grapevine, people talk, especially when drama is this juicy, was exactly what she deserved. First, anger and suspicion. He ripped into her. "Fake. You told me that ring was your safety net. You said he was loaded but boring. Were you lying about everything? Are you broke? Is that why you latched onto me?" Then the kicker. Turns out, Liam wasn't some wealthy savior. He revealed his own scam. He was apparently deep in debt himself. Gambling, bad investments, who knows? He'd seen Chloe, heard her talk, likely exaggerating my financial status and the ring's value, and targeted her as his meal ticket. He thought her ring would solve his problems. When he realized she was bringing nothing to the table but drama and a worthless rock, he exploded. He likely accused her of trying to scam him, called her pathetic, and dumped her on the spot, probably leaving her stranded wherever they were shacked up. Two grifters trying to grift each other, ending exactly as you'd expect. Poetic justice, in its own twisted way. The wider consequences for Chloe seemed to be a slow social implosion. The story, in various mutated forms, got around our old circles. Some people sided with me implicitly. Others just distanced themselves from the mess. She seemed to vanish from the professional scene we both inhabited. Her reputation, built on calculated networking and perceived status, was likely tarnished beyond repair. She had burned her bridges with spectacular flames. Months passed. The sharp edges of grief began to soften, replaced by a dull ache. I focused on work, on supporting my mom, on rebuilding some semblance of normalcy. I started sorting through Dad's personal effects, finding old photos, letters, tangible pieces of the man he was. It was painful, but healing. One evening, sorting through his old desk, I found a small velvet box tucked away in a back drawer. Inside, nestled on worn satin, was a diamond, a real 1 carat, loose, brilliant cut, easily 2 carats, maybe more. It came with GIA certification papers, dated years ago. It was the actual stone I'd gotten the appraisal for, the one the moissanite mimicked. Dad must have bought it as an investment long ago, or perhaps intended it for Mom and never gave it to her. I had no idea he even had it. Holding it, I felt a strange mix of emotions. This was the value Chloe thought she was stealing. This tiny, glittering rock represented everything she prized and everything she fundamentally misunderstood. Around the same time, maybe 6 months after the funeral, another message arrived. This time, a text from a number I didn't recognize, but the tone was unmistakable. It was Chloe, the pleading message. "Hey, my name, it's Chloe. Look, I know things ended badly. I messed up. I was stupid, scared. Liam was a mistake. Everything's fallen apart. I'm really struggling. Can we just talk? Please, I miss you. I miss what we had. I read it, stared at the words, felt nothing. No anger, no pity, just emptiness where affection used to be. The emotional connection was severed as cleanly as if by a surgeon's scalpel. What we had was an illusion she shattered with a text message during my father's funeral. There was nothing left to talk about. I deleted the message, blocked the number, silence. That felt like the final act regarding her. But there was one more thing needed for me, for Dad. I took the real diamond, the one Dad had kept hidden away, to a reputable dealer. Not a pawn shop, but a proper gem broker. The value was significant, confirming the original appraisal I'd flashed at Chloe was accurate for this stone. I sold it. The money felt clean, unburdened. It wasn't severance pay from a toxic relationship. It was part of my father's legacy. I used a large portion of it to set up a small educational grant in his name at the local community college he always supported, helping young people pursue real ambition through skill and hard work, not shortcuts and shiny objects. I used another portion to take my mom on a trip she'd always dreamed of but Dad never got around to. The rest went into rebuilding my own savings, solidifying my own future, built on my own terms. It didn't bring Dad back. It didn't erase the scar of betrayal, but it felt right. It felt like closure, turning something that represented greed and deceit into something positive, something honoring the man whose final words urged me to value substance over sparkle. Chloe got her severance, a worthless rock, and the messy consequences of her own choices. I got peace, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing I honored my father's last wish. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't loud destruction. It's quietly building a better life on the ashes of the old one. That's all for this story. I'll be back with another one. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It motivates me to create more content like this.